All right, everyone, welcome to the Rusch Academy Mastering RPI Queen's Stage Race Stage 1 course review. I'm Rebecca Rusch, your host for today, alongside with my amazing coach, Tim Cusick. Hi, Tim. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for stage one. Woohoo!
Totally. Stage 1. This is an updated course review for stage 1 because we changed the course in 2023 and it's similar but different. And so we're going to go through this update. Coach Tim and I will kind of share a little bit of our experience, some tips and tricks for the course, and really take you through mile by mile every section of the course so that you can arrive here in Idaho when the race comes around really prepared. And I've always said that controlling the controllables is an amazing way to show up on race day and feel really excited and really good. So knowing the course is just such a great way to kind of feel confident and excited when you get here. So we're going to jump right in and we'll start here with a basic overview of stage 1. And you can see on here the distance is a little over 35 miles, 3,500 feet of elevation gain, 20% single track, and 80% gravel road. And I'm going to use air quotes there. This is all non-motorized, this section. And so the gravel sections are not your typical road that cars drive on. So it's quite rugged. It's almost like two ribbons of single track next to each other. It's a really fun course. This is my favorite stage. And I call it the adventure day because it really is a little bit more like a mountain bike course than you might think your typical gravel course. So you can see the overall general out and back format with a lollipop on the end there. So we're going to dive in a little deeper and break it down. Right here, you can see, here's the course profile. And Coach Tim has kind of gotten me into looking at a course profile before any race that I go to. I like to look at the course profile, not just the map. I love to look at the map, but the profile really gives you a lot of insight so that you can see the whole thing in a snapshot. And so you can see here, we're going to break down each segment of the course, but you get kind of a gradual climb up to for the first sort of 10 or so miles. And it doesn't look like much, but it kind of sneaks up on you. And then you get some real steep climbing and single track in that middle section and some single track descending that's pretty spicy and fun. And then you're back on the Harriman Trail, which is that double track section in reverse. And it looks like it's all downhill, but again, there's some sneakers and some little punchy climbs in there as well. And then you're gonna pass the start and finish line and you climb again to the end. You get a climbing finish. So what we're going to do now, well, Tim, I guess I'll just ask you. So when you look at this course profile, we're going to dig in a little more granular in each section, but overview, when you look at this, what do you see?
This is challenging. This is a course that I like to say that people can make big mistakes. So you
Mm.
really have to think the general toughness, roughness of the course, the longer uphill into the single track, because that's going to be really about managing fatigue. And then that final little section after the turnaround, which Rebecca's kind of mean. but, so you have to be smart. I'll talk a little bit later about pacing it smart. When I look at this course, though, you got to be careful not to make big mistakes because big mistakes here are going to really, really cost you. So being course aware, watching the rest of this course is really going to help you.
Yeah, and for those of you who've done the Queen Stage race before 2023, it was a little bit longer, and you might look at this and go, "Oh, it's shorter, it's easier." But we had some folks who've done both courses, and when they raced 2023, they were like, this was hard. This was harder than it looked on the profile. So that's a good point that you make Tim. And he's right. I like hard courses. I like to challenge you. So this is gonna be one of those. So let's go into, all right, switch the slide here. Let's go into we're gonna kind of break it into sections here. And One second. I'm just going to make my screen a little bigger. Okay. So we're going to break it into sections here. And this is still the overview, but we're going to start with section 1, 0 to 10 miles. And this is basically about 1,000 feet of climbing. Um, a teeny bit of descending on some of the rollers, generally 6% to 0.9% grade. So it's actually a really nice climbing grade. You can keep up a good tempo, you can keep up a good pace, but you are climbing. And it looks a little bit deceiving. You're like, oh, 1%, 1% grade, but you definitely feel it. So this section it is double track, like I said, and it's a really cool non-motorized trail. It's our Nordic trails in the winter, and non-motorized bike trails and hiking trails in in the summer. Also horse trails. So one note for this entire course, we don't have a closed course. So this is open not to motorized traffic, but to horses and hikers and bikers and wildlife that might be running across the trail. So I do want to keep in mind overall, we're sharing the trails. So that means being aware of other users, being polite, saying hello, ringing a bell if you've got one. They know a race is going on. We've got signs up all over the place, but the trails are open to all users. So I want you to be extra aware of that. And so just for the start, we start on the Harriman Trail, which is this beautiful non-motorized trail. And we start about 10 miles outside of town. So you will have to drive there, um, carpool there. There's a big parking lot right across the street from the start called Baker Creek parking lot. There are restrooms there. We'll have a small aid station at the start with some water and goo products. But you will have to get yourself there. This is a condition of our permit that we don't ride on the highway to warm up. So we do ask you to get yourself there, not by riding your bike on the highway. There's plenty of space to warm up on the Harriman Trail and around there that's not on the highway. So even when you get to the start, please don't warm up on the highway. That is a condition of our permit, and it's really a special place to be able to race. So we do ask that. And so this first section, 1,000 feet of elevation gain in about 10 miles, the things to be aware of on this, sort of the hazards are this trail, as I said, cars don't drive on it, nor do motorcycles or anything motorized. And so the gravel is very loose and sometimes piles deep on the corners. And so sometimes it's like kitty litter, and then sometimes like big chunky rocks and ball bearings. And so probably one of the biggest hazards to watch out for is the speed that you carry and the traction. So it's quite loose in a lot of areas. There are some sharp blind corners. There are other users. There are metal gates across every dirt road crossing. So the Harriman Trail will cross probably 10 or 15 different dirt roads horizontally, and there are metal gates. So you're on a double track, and then there's these metal gates that there's a little narrow space that you can go through, but the gate isn't open across the whole trail, and that's to keep motorized users from driving in there. And so as you're racing, you're hauling and you're going fast, and you can see you're coming up to a dirt road crossing, there is always going to be a metal gate across the trail that has enough of a slot for you to ride through. But please don't clothesline yourself on the gate, because it's just about waist high. It's brown, so they're a little hard to see. We'll hang flags and things on them, but that is probably the biggest hazard, are the loose gravel and then the metal gates that go across some of the roads. The race will, at this point in this section, you won't have two-way traffic of racers, but you will have other user groups. So let's see. All right, I'm gonna go back one section. Tim, on this first 10 miles. So people are getting started, and I will say there is room to pass, and there's a smaller, I think we have a maximum of 300 people who are doing the Queen's Stage race. We will line up the pro men and women to roll out a few minutes before the rest of the group. But there is room to pass. It's a double track, it's gradually climbing. So I always kind of tell people mass starts are often a big stressor for people, and obviously you want to get in a good position. You got about 10 miles though until you need to worry about slotting into that single track, so you've got a good amount of time to like get with the people, find the right position, get comfortable in the pack that you're with. So Tim, I want to open up to you. What do you see in this first 10 miles of the profile, and any tips for this kind of start on the double track Harriman?
Yeah, okay, so it is going to be this is a unique kind of setup because you have this 10 miles of faster, double, it's more than double track road, gravel road. And the reality is it's worth putting in some effort here. So it's going to be a little different. I'll talk about this in the overall pacing strategy, but I would push this start a little harder. That doesn't mean coming out of the gate, blow yourself up in the first 5 minutes. But when you look at this 10 miles as a whole, you're going to want to expend some extra watts here. It's going to pay off for you. And I'll talk more in the overall about that. Two, to me, in looking at this course and how it's going to play out, you need to use these first 10 miles to get on top of your hydration and your fueling. You're going to be at altitude, you're going to be in drier climes than many of you might live in. You want to eat and drink here because the slight uphill grade and the controlled speed, it's going to be a little easier to do that. But yet, your anxiety and start race, you're going to forget to do that. I would have a very clear nutrition and hydration plan for these 10 miles. Get ahead of the game because those opportunities are going to kind of go away later.
Yeah, that's a super good point, and I will reinforce there's a mini, there is a there aid station at the start and finish that will have some goo products. It's pretty minimal, pretty basic. It is there if you need it. You'll have it at the start and you'll pass it once before you finish. But this is the kind of course where I want my hands on the handlebars the most time. I would probably wear a small hydration pack for this stage because you're going into single track, you're on pretty rugged double track. And like Tim said, you don't want to get behind on the hydration and the fueling in this first 10 miles of the gradual climbing. Because once you pop into that single track, it's all hands on the handlebars. And so for me, I would prefer to use a small, maybe a 50-ounce hydration pack, and then make sure I've got my nutrition right in my pockets, ready to go, right, somewhere accessible so that you can eat and drink in this first section, and you don't want to get behind the 8 ball. Also remember, you're doing a stage race and this is stage 1. So if you get behind on your nutrition on this day, it doesn't just blow this day, it kind of puts you in the back seat a little and having to do some catch up for day 2, day 3, and so on. So that's really good advice for that section, that first 10-mile section. It'll go fast. It's not a ton of climbing, but it's just enough to get you in a good position, get you hydrated, get you really warmed up. We actually had some feedback. People really liked starting with this gradual climb because they felt they got a better warm up before they got into the single track. Whereas previously we got straight into the single track in this course before. So it actually is a nicer, from a physiological point of view, and a sort of putting you in a position in the pack that's right for you. It's a way better start than the course that we've had previously. Okay, so from mile 10, you are going to get into the single track section right up around Galena Lodge. And what I want to say about this is you're going to you're going to be on this double track Harriman Trail for a while. And then as you get close to Galena Lodge, you're going to have another one of those nice gates. You're going to get near the whole Nordic Trail system where there's a lot of trails. You're going to pass some horse corrals on your left, and then you're going to see a lot of trail intersections. So this is the point, once you exit the Harriman Trail, to be a little bit heads up. Look for course. The course is marked, but you all know what it's like when you're going fast or you're following somebody's wheel. sit up for a second here as you come through all the congestion of the Galena Lodge trails, and just make sure you're going the right way. And we're going to be doing a loop around the single track. And this is where it gets really rugged. This is really a mountain bike trail. I'm just gonna say it, but the gravel bikes are awesome for this kind of riding. It's a really fun section of the course. There's switchbacks, it's really rocky, there's berms. Um, you'll pass that horse corral, so you want to stay to the right there, and you're going to be in descents, tight turns, and I love this part of the course. From a pacing point of view, you've had a nice warm up, you've had 10 miles. This single track section, it's only 6.3 miles, but you've got 1,000 feet of climbing and 1,000 feet of descent in that 6 miles. So you can do the math. That means there's 1,000 feet of climbing in about 3 miles. So you're going to go right uphill really quickly, some of it up to 16% grade. So that's where Tim was saying, you want to be warmed up, you want to be in a good position, and you want to be fueled up, and then get ready to hold on for the rodeo. So we'll break it down first. You climb first and then you descend. It's basically you remember the profile. It basically was a nice point. So this first climb, this first section, is about 3 miles, just shy of 1,000 feet. It's quite rugged. I'm not gonna lie. There might be some sections you have to walk. Um, and you're going to hit a high point elevation of over 8,000 feet. So, for those of you who are coming from sea level, you're gonna be a little out of breath. It's gonna be dry, and you're looking at some of the almost 16% grade on some of this. So it is all rideable. Um, it just depends on how you feel and also the condition of the course. The drier it gets, the more loose the traction gets on some of the really steep pitches. The real steep pitches, though, there's not that many of them. Most of them is a real nice 7-8% grade that is totally rideable. Tim, any comments here on this sort of kick in the gut climb that you get into here?
Yeah, I would say two things. One, classic advice. It's really important you relax here and actually on the second half of the single track. Just, you know, everybody's going to be a little anxious. Everybody's going to have a little anxiety. It's easy to start overthinking this, and that leads to just more errors. So just relax. Everybody's going to have some of the same challenges on these courses and stuff like that. You're going to be okay. Just keep pedaling and work through it. Here's another tip though, going back to hydration, and I would wear a pack, and I don't normally do, but I would wear a hydration pack on this course for exactly why you said. Um, when you have to get off, when you dab or you have to get off and walk your bike, drink and eat when you're walking, drink and eat when you're walking, particularly up this hill. Because when you get going downhill and stuff like that, it's hard to get your hands off the bar. It's hard to accomplish that. So, all right, wow, I had to dab, I had to jump off and walk/run this little section. Take a little water, take fuel if you can. Use those times where you're, all right, I'm losing 10 seconds of time, fuel and hydrate during those times so you don't have to lose more time later doing the same thing.
I love that. That's super good multitasking advice, and I do this a lot in my ultra endurance events. If you can do two things at once, that's great. On technical single track, sometimes you can't ride and eat at the same time. So if you are off, it's fine. Make the most of it, grab a bite, grab a drink, and then get back on when you can. On that note, it is very narrow single track. There is no passing here unless somebody moves over, gets off their bike, and allows you to pass. There is no way to ride around someone. So, be conscious of that as you're coming up on somebody, let them know with plenty of time. If someone's coming up on you, do the courteous thing. They've caught you. And so go ahead and lean to the side of the trail, put a foot down, and let them zoom by. We all know what it's like to have somebody ride on your tail. It's not fun for either the person in the front or the person behind. So, but like I said, you've had 10 miles of warm up. We found that everybody was kind of in a pretty good position you're with riders that are kind of similar to your speed by this point, but there you really aren't able to pass unless somebody gets off and moves out of the way. So if you are off and you're walking their bike, that's totally fine. Just, keep a look over your shoulder, keep an ear open, so that you can get out of somebody's way if they are still on their bike. All right, so let's now, you've done the amazing climb. I will say, if you're able to, there's some gorgeous views from up there. If you're able to like take a peek over your left shoulder, you'll get a really cool view of the mountains there. You may not be able to breathe or look or even see clearly to look around, but if you do, it's a really beautiful view. All right, so you've got to the top of the climb, you've hit over 8,000 feet, and now you're ready to descend. For many people, this is the most terrifying part of the course, and they would rather keep climbing. But it's really, really fun. And some advice that I'll give you, it's just a few miles, 3.5 miles. You're going to descend 1,000 feet. About 7% is the max grade, to 4.4%. It's a mountain bike trail. So there are bermed turns. There are little rock jumps if you want. But there's always an A and a B line. You do not have to go over any of the rocks. So be heads up and read the trail. You're not going to win the race here, but you could lose the race here. So like Tim says, take a deep breath, relax your head and your face and your shoulders, smile, and actually enjoy the descent because it's really fun. It's all rideable. And the berms they actually help you. So they actually kind of keep you on the trail. If you're here early and you get a chance to pre-ride this section of the course, highly recommend it. Drive up to Galena Lodge, just do this little 6-mile loop so that you can kind of feel comfortable about that if that's something you're nervous about. But I will tell you, it's all rideable. It's really fun. But it's a descent. And so I love having a dropper seat post on my gravel bike and practice descending in the drops because that's the safest place to be on a steep, curvy descent like this. So, Coach Tim, do you have any input on this descent or descending in gravel in general on single track?
Yeah, I think actually, yeah, you said it very well. Be in your drops. I see this so much in gravel that, you get into these scenarios, and once people get a little anxious again here, relax and get in your drops. Your bike control is so much better. Your ability to handle these berms and tight turns will be so much better. Your weight distribution over your bike will be so much better. I know it almost feels more nerve wracking going down a hill. You want to be doing that push back thing and you feel a little more control. It's not. That's what will get you in trouble. So relax, get in your drops, and just find your flow. You do you here. It's very easy to get outside of yourself on this type of a technical section. Just do you, be comfortable being you, and don't crash.
Yeah, keep breathing. This is going to be over quickly, and hopefully you're smiling and laughing and having a good time. It's a really fun section of trail. But there is the opportunity for flats, there is the opportunity for crashes, and make this your safe place here. Have a really good time, enjoy it. Don't try to set any speed records or Strava records or anything like that on this section. And again, if someone's coming up behind you, they're going to let you know, and no stress. Just be like, okay, I'm gonna pull over up here, communicate with each other, pull over to the side, and let somebody go by. When you come out of this single track section with smiling from ear to ear and being like, man, I never thought my gravel bike could do that. Right when you come out of that, you'll get on another double track section that's quite rocky. It's got some embedded rocks. It usually has some water erosion sort of thing. So it's a little bit rugged once you exit the single track. You're still descending, and then you're going to come close to the corrals again, the horse corrals. And we have a neutral slow zone there for everybody. And this is for the courtesy of the horses and to make sure we don't spook the horses. So after you come off the single track, probably about 30 seconds after that, you're going to see us slowing you down. Don't worry, we're going to slow everybody down. This is not chance to pass. We just don't want anybody to get kicked by a horse or to stress the horses out. So that a very small 200-meter section around the horse corrals, we are going to slow you down. So please respect that. That is, again, a condition of our permit. We're sharing the trails with other people, and being heads up, there may actually be horses and riders on the trail as well. So probably not on the single track section because they don't use that section. But once you exit it and you're close to the corrals, you could see horses and trail riders out there. So take it easy around that, and you'll go around the horse corrals. We'll be flagging you, and then you get back on the Harriman Trail, which is that double track that we started on. So you'll be basically doing a lollipop and coming right back onto the climb, the 10-mile climb that you did on the way up. So we'll switch to that section of the course. Oh, here's my tips on Rebecca's single track. And we talked about this already. It's a mountain bike trail with technical features. It's really fun. One thing I didn't mention, we're in, there's a lot of trails in this system, not just the one that we're on. So there are quite a few intersections. It is marked, but be heads up, because if you're right behind somebody or you're sort of gripped on the descent and you're looking at the trail, just be heads up, and make sure you're staying on the right course so that you don't get off course. And again, getting your drops. All right, so now we're gonna go back to, we've come so far. Look at this. We've done the climb, we've gotten to the high point, we've done this amazing single track, and you can even see in the descent, there's a little teeny climb in there that gives you a break. That might be a moment again to put a piece of food in your mouth or get a drink of water. And then you're gonna get back on this 10-mile descent basically back to the start line. And you'll already know this trail. It will be familiar, but it looks very different in reverse. So, all right, let's get right into it. And so this is what we're calling the Harriman Trail outbound. Actually, Tim, I'm going to go back to this profile here. Do you have anything to add on this section? So they're at this point of the course, and now they're starting the descent, heading home.
Yeah, I mean, and as you talk about this, this is tricky. Like you might be looking at this course and be like, man, that's my time to go. Like I'm gonna really burn a lot of power, a lot of watts, a lot of energy going super fast down that hill. And it's pretty fast. That might not be your best strategy. This is a section where you really want to focus more on speed economy than pure power. You want to settle in, you want to be smooth, you want to be steady and not push too hard here, because at those kind of speeds, you're really fighting a lot of air resistance. You might not be making up as much time as your competitor, even though it feels good to be pedaling fast down that slight downhill. That's what everybody else is doing. So the reality is, this area is about finding that kind of cruise mode that, sure, I'm not saying go easy, don't get me wrong, you're putting out some numbers, you're rolling along pretty well, but maybe not going into the red on every little flat, on every little slight. You want that good, steady, economical power where you're just running low tempo, mid tempo, good solid pacing, and squeezing every bit of speed out of the power that you are burning. Great area to just try to control your convenience braking and maximize everything you can get out of this section without having to burn a ton of watts.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, because you are generally going downhill. You can see there's some little punchy climbs. They're quite short, but they're quite steep on the descent. But generally, you're trending down, losing about 1,400 feet of elevation in this section. So you're going, yeah, you're like, woohoo, this is great. I'm going fast. I would say the two biggest things to watch out for on this section are, this is now two-way traffic. You're going to have some people going up and some people coming down the same trail. So very heads up, there are blind corners. You've got to really resist the urge to float to the outside of a turn, because there's going to be people coming the other direction. And so please be careful of that. The other thing that is real easy to do, because you're going a lot quicker on this section. All that loose gravel that I talked about is just waiting there for you as you're coming in hot off a corner. And there's some pretty sharp turns. So braking early before those blind corners, because they almost all have big piles of gravel on the inside and the outside of the turn. So being heads up, there's sometimes water erosion on this trail. So there are sections where it is double track, but there's an erosion right down the middle, and you've sort of got to figure out which side of it to go to. So again, even though you're off the single track mountain bike trail, in my opinion, this is pretty technical riding. It's pretty technical gravel riding. So relaxing, getting some food and nutrition on the easier parts where there are long sections where you've got real good visibility, where you've got real good visibility for like a mile, and you can see. And then there's other sections you're in the trees and you can't really see, and you've got to be heads up. So when you've got a good eye line and sight, that may be a moment to gather yourself, get some nutrition, kind of check in with things, and then be, real focused when you're in the tight trees and the corners where you can't see. Anything else on that, Tim?
No, I think that's an excellent summary.
Cool. All right. So you are going to, this is the cruel part of it. So you are going to pass, sorry to laugh. You're going to pass the start finish area, but you're not going to finish when you first pass the finish line. There will be a minimal aid station there. So if you really need water, you need something, you don't have a lot left. You've got about 6 miles till the finish, but you've got to go out and do a little out and back section to the turnaround. So you're going
That's
to
still
pass
the, hey, Rebecca, that's still the outbound section. Go
still
one
the
more slide.
outbound.
Go one
Oh,
more slide. Yeah, you're on
one
the
more slide.
outback, because they're going to think you're going downhill for what you're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, so oops, yeah, thank you. Keeping up with the slides here. So yeah, we talked about the sharp turns, very fast section, but you're not done yet. Blind corners, those metal gates that we talked about. And then we are going to, here we go. Wait, is this the right slide?
Yep, that's the turnaround.
Oh gosh, it. Okay. See, I designed the course and I can't even recognize it. All right. So you've come all the way down that 10-mile climbing section that's now a descent. You've passed the start finish. We've all cheered for you. We're all going to be there. It's very exciting. You get a boost of adrenaline there. Um, and then you have to go all the way down to the turnaround. And so why did I do this? Um, why I did this is because finishing on a downhill is kind of gnarly, and I wanted to give you some extra credit and just give you another view. So you are going to get beautiful views of the Pioneer Mountains. It really is quite a stunning stage. Like I said, it's my favorite stage in the whole of the whole event. I love it so much. So I hope you get some time to look at the views, but you'll go around to the turnaround, and I think we've got a slide for that. There we go. So here's the overview. You'll pass the finish line. You don't get to finish yet, and you go down to about 31 miles, and you've got this little hairpin turn where it's basically in the parking lot. And so you're going to do a loop around there. There will be uh there will be a medic there. There will be some communication there. There will be a flagger there, and there will be a very important timing mat there that you need to go over. So you're basically just doing a small loop around some cones around a timing mat, and then you're heading right back two-way traffic, right back up to the finish line. And that will be a climb, 4 miles of gradual climbing to get back to the finish line. And it's not steep, but you're gonna feel it. So heads up on that turnaround, slow down there. Like I said, it's a tight turn. It's basically a U-turn, and there's gonna be people coming in, going each way. Get over that timing mat, and then you're headed back home towards the finish line. So we'll click this next slide. Yeah, you're gonna slow down. This is a picture of what it looks like. Basically a bunch of cones you're gonna go around, and you stay to the right, go around, and then you'll be back on the right side of the trail on the Harriman Trail going around that timing mat. All right, so Harriman Trail to inbound and to the finish. So 4 miles, 4.3, 300 feet of elevation gain, max grade 4.5, minimum 0.7. So it is climbing all the way back to the finish. It's not super steep climbing, but it's climbing. And you're probably pretty tired at this point. So, Tim, what do you see when you see this profile, and what are you thinking at this section of the race?
Well, the place you lose this section is everything you've seen earlier. This is why it's so important to stay on top of your hydration and nutrition, because this is going to come down to how deep you can go. And if you haven't stayed on top of those two elements, you've been on the course long enough now that you're going to start having some physical limitations because you didn't fuel well or hydrate well. So I would definitively make sure that's exactly why you want to fuel and hydrate, because those 4 final miles, here's where depending on your goals, right? Your position can change a lot in those final 4 miles, because it's a great place to chase if you're a little energized. It's a great place, or I guess great if your competitors might really fade in this section. So at the end of the day, if you're fueled well, you've hydrated well, you're mentally prepared for this section. This is the heart section, as I like to call it. You'll see that in my pacing. It really is going to come down to how hard you're willing to go. Be well fueled and hydrated, but commit to the uncomfortable here. Like, here's a place, like, if you really, really want to do well, you've got to be able to be uncomfortable or discomfortable in this phase, and know that, like, everyone else is suffering like you. What I see in the end phases like this, that people maybe don't handle the mental pressure well, as they go inside their own mind and they're like, oh, I'm hurting so bad, I suck, I'm so dead. So is everybody else, right? So just know everybody's feeling as bad or as fatigued or as tired as you are. It's your ability to just keep pushing on, do the work, have the heart to compete here. That really is the difference maker. There is no big secret. It's how much you're willing to be able to understand that you're not the only one hurting, and how much you're able to push through it.
Yeah, and if you look at this profile, you look down on the bottom there, it's a really nice gradual climb. It's actually the perfect grade to, not so hard of an uphill finish, but it's a really good grade. Like Tim said, put your heart and soul into it, and, and finish strong here. It's, depending on your speed, this is 15 to 30 minutes. It's not a long section, but it's long enough to feel like, okay. And so you might put that into your head of like, hey, if I'm riding 10 miles an hour, I'm going to be there in half an hour, and knowing that you're ticking down the miles to the finish line, and the faster you get there, the faster you get there. It's a really cool section of course, because again, one of the dangers, you've got two-way traffic, but it's also really exciting because you're seeing people, they're cheering for you. It's the first chance you'll get, if you're actually really racing for the win, it's the first chance you're going to get to see how close that next person is behind you, or how far they are in front of you. So you get a really good gauge of like, oh my gosh, that person's right there, I can catch them. And so, or someone's right on my tail, I better throw it down. So you get a nice snapshot of the race, how it's playing out with the out and back, and the turnaround. Being heads up though, that also keep in mind, it is two-way traffic. So if you got to make a pass, make sure you're making it not on a blind corner. You're making it on a place where you can see that no one else is coming in the other lane. And you can see the nature of the trail here. It basically is a double track, with the little grassy pile in the middle. And so you do have to sort of change lanes if you're going to go around somebody. So making sure that you're doing that safely. But it's a really cool finish. I got a lot of good feedback on this finish, that it's hard, but it's not so long that it's debilitating, and it makes for a really exciting finish. All right, so here you are. You've done it. You've made it to the finish line. Mile 35, I think, point 2. And this is what it looks like. I will tell you, the finish comes up on you quickly. It's a little bit of a blind finish. And so if you are really, racing with somebody and duking it out, we had some of the top riders really coming to a sprint finish on this finish line, which was kind of exciting. And you know, one person like came around the corner and like slipped a pedal, and so it's quite technical all the way to the very end. So being heads up, again, if you can go pre-ride or even drive up and get out and look at the start finish so you know what it's like. Even if you're not racing for the win, it's just peace of mind to know what the finish looks like, what the start looks like, maybe what the single track looks like. All right, so we're gonna dive in just a little bit more. The aid station, like I said, very basic. It will be at the start and finish banner area. Goo, hydration, but plan to be semi self-supported, as we've already talked about. There's really not support out on the trail. So for me, I'm gonna ride with everything I need for the entire stage. I'm not gonna plan on stopping at the aid station because it's so quick. You're going fast, and really 35 miles, and you hit the aid station at mile 26. So it's really not worth planning to use the aid station unless you need it. Again, you're welcome to. It's at the start and the finish, and you'll pass it once. But I would do this ride fully fueled, fully supported. Obviously, I've got flat tire changing stuff with me and my nutrition and hydration. It is cool in Idaho in the mornings. It can be 40s. It can be colder than that. Um, we do start in the sun, which is nice, but you might be chilly at the start. So you might consider a vest. Looking at the weather conditions, that's kind of up to you, but you might have a vest or something. That said, you start off climbing. So you might want to start cold. And just go for it. Tim, anything on what to bring or things like that?
No, I think you covered it really well. I think you just need to be prepared here because you are far away from things at a lot of the times on this. So just be prepared to get yourself in and out if you have to.
Yeah, typical RPI fashion, you are out of cell phone range. I'll let you know that in almost all of our courses, there's no cell phone coverage. The race we have medics, we have communication, we have, all sorts of stuff like that, course markings, but you're not going to be able to phone home. And so being self-reliant, making sure you've got a jacket, making sure you know the course, it's loaded in your Garmin, or your device. That said, in the single track section, you are quite deep in the trees. So sometimes it takes the garment a minute to catch up. And that's why I say, please make sure your head's up on the course markings. But yeah, you are in the remote mountains of Idaho. You're going up to 8,000 feet. We've had it snow during RPI. So just be heads up and know that you're really remote, but that's what makes it really exciting. It's such a beautiful course. One of my favorites. Um, just to give you a little pacing, and this is where Tim's magic really comes in. And this is what I like to do, no matter what ability you are, it's always important to look at the pacing. And so we put down some average times from last year, the winning times for women, men, average times for women and men, and then the slowest times for women and men, ranging from, 2 hours, 20 minutes, for women up to 4 hours and change, 2 hours, 5 minutes for the top men, really quick for 35 miles, and then the longest 4.5 hours, about 4.5 hours. So that should give you some really good idea of pacing. So you're planning your nutrition based on the pacing. You're planning just your mental sort of strategy of how long you think you're going to be on the bike, and that gives you a nice gauge of what your day is going to look like. Tim, anything on the race times?
No, actually, the next slide is I have some pace
Yeah. This is
recommendations.
your magic. So yeah, you look at the times, and then here's where Tim comes in and put together of how to pace the course. So when you're looking at any course, you look at the profile like we did at the beginning, you kind of look at the challenging parts and break it down like we did, and then you're going to make an overall plan. How am I going to ride this thing? So Tim, I'll let you jump in here and talk about a pace plan.
Yeah, I mean, basically keep this pretty simple. People ask me about pace plans all the time, and in most sports, maybe a little different in something like a time trial, it's better to think about effort level versus a specific number because there's so many variables. It's a dynamic sport, right? This course will likely and let's just think about this in terms of effort or power output. this course will probably be faster as a positive split course, putting out more energy in the first, let's call it half, at least till you get to the top of that pointy thing on the screen, right? That's where you want to put out a little more effort, a little more energy. You'll make better time overall because you're not dealing with as much air resistance and other impact factors that will actually work against you. So in that first section on the Harriman, I would think push. Like I'm always trying to push, maybe pushing up one rider, maybe pushing myself a little harder than I'm comfortable. Now, be careful. I'm not saying go all out effort and blow yourself up, but be thinking in your mind, I'm pushing here. I'm pushing up one rider. I'm pushing a couple more watts, a little more effort, right? It's worth spending the energy here to make up time. You'll compare against other riders. You'll be a little faster, putting out some extra energy here. And two, it's going to pay off in your positioning going into the single track. So worth that push. When you get to the single track, think power. Like you're going to have great control. There's going to be a lot of sections. You're going to end up gearing into lower gears, harder to pedal gears. So you're going to be doing a little more of that power execution, that strength draining demand. Embrace it, right? Don't try to like over pedal some of these climbs and tiny, and I'm trying to keep my RPMs at 95 to 100. Sometimes this is a hammer section, right? This is a nail section. You just need to be the hammer, a little bigger gear, a little more power. Don't be afraid to use it here to keep you on the bike under control and moving forward. Then coming back down, this is the cruise section, and cruise is about speed economy. I would put out a little less power actually than I pushed up that hill, but I'd want more speed out of that. I want to be more conscientious about being smooth, not burning tiny little matches, maximizing my power into velocity, into speed at every section I can. If I can get a little more roll, if I can get a little more recover, if I can get it, this is the cruise zone, right? And here's where what you're really doing in this cruise zone is you're not burning unnecessary energy, because it's really hard when everything's moving fast. It's hard to make up time against other competitors because they're moving fast and you're both fighting air resistance, right? There's a physics reality happening there. But also you're leaving a little in the tank that when you hit that turnaround, that's the final time where you can really make up time. That slight uphill is going to slow the speeds down. It's going to reduce the air resistance that you're fighting against, and it's going to make your power more impactful on your position. And I'd love to give you a pace like push, power, but reality is it's going to be whatever you got. It's whatever you have the heart for. So literally, when you do that turnaround and you are that X amount of miles away, right? Or if you want to, some people think about things like that in time or mileage, it is time to just go. It's not going to be clean. It's not going to be a perfect little pacing. You're going to have moments in that heart zone where like, I can do this. And you're going to have moments like, oh crap, I can't do this. Stay positive, keep driving to the finish line, and everything will work out. That's just a good overall pacing strategy, how to simplify this course and break it down for effort.
I really love that, Tim, because it really is personalized for this course. And yeah, the first half, you're climbing and you're putting it in there. And then that cruise section, there you're hitting speeds 20 miles an hour in some of these places, 25 miles an hour for some of the really fast people. And there's a lot of efficiency to be had. I mean, go a speed that you're comfortable, but you are going fast in some of these places. And so it feels good. You're flying, and that's a great place to eat and hydrate and really get yourself kind of ready for that, and just maintain and be efficient and get yourself ready for that last heart section where you're going to lay it all out there on the line before you cross the finish line. um that's such a good breakdown of this course, and it gets me excited watching it actually, because I love this course. I know I've said it a bunch of times. It's my favorite, and the reason I designed this stage was for the views, for the non-motorized aspect of it, for pushing you to a place where you thought maybe your gravel bike could never go, to really push people beyond what they think is possible on a gravel bike. And that's what I love about these. I call them adventure bikes instead of gravel bikes, because they can do a lot. And we know that you coming through this part of the course, that you're actually going to be going to be so far ahead of anyone who hasn't gone through this, hasn't taken the time to sit here and study a little bit. And it's going to be peace of mind. It's going to be pacing. You're, going to handle your nutrition, but you're also going to have more fun, which is really the best part. I mean, that's why we ride bikes anyway, isn't it? It's a beautiful course, and this is only stage one. And so as you wrap up, you reach that finish line, remember obviously to have your recovery drink, high five your friends, wipe off your bike, lube your chain, because you'll have stage two, which is the uphill time trial as the next stage in this. Tim, any closing remarks for this?
No, I think said well. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy it. It is definitely a very pretty place. So enjoy the racing, enjoy the environment, enjoy the things around you, and just have a great day.
Well, thank you, Coach Tim, for QSR Stage 1 breakdown. I really appreciate your expertise and the science and Stoke, and to all of you tuning in. I hope this helps, and have a great ride.
Thanks, everybody.